Hey everyone, Erin from the Impatient Gardener, and I'm standing in a beautiful garden today. I am at Northwind Perennials. This is Roy Diblik's nursery, and I hope you guys know Roy Diblik. We're going to introduce you to him in a second. He is a plantsman, educator, designer, and he is really at the forefront of some very cool things that are happening in horticulture right now. So it's really a privilege to get to talk to him today and to show you some of his beautiful display gardens that he has here. All right, so I want to introduce you guys to Roy Diblik, who is just plantsman extraordinaire, great designer. Roy, could you just tell everybody a little bit about some of the projects you've worked on?
Yeah, I worked on Lurie Garden with Pete Outoff. That was my first introduction to Pete and design. Did the Art Institute, Modern Wing. I did the Shed Aquarium, the Oceanarium. Did just now Detroit with Pete. I'm going back to finish the rain garden that Pete did in Detroit. He did a large planting in Detroit. And now currently it's a gravel garden for the world's largest computer at Argonne National Laboratory.
Neat.
A gravel gardener. So it's I have to say it's exciting.
That's great.
To have these opportunities.
That's wonderful. So one of the things that I have learned so much from you, you guys, Roy has an amazing YouTube channel that is full of so many great tutorials and ways to help you understand plants a little bit better. But one of the things that really made me start thinking about plants differently was that at one point you talked about how if you get to know a smaller palette of plants, collection of plants, and you think of those as the alphabet. Right. I loved this analogy. Maybe you can kind of go into how you can think of plants as an alphabet and then form words with them. So maybe you can talk about that.
Basically, if you look at the alphabet, you're not anticipating a new letter. It's not like you're frustrated, life doesn't go on without a new letter. You take 26 letters, you make a million words, phrases, paragraphs, stories. So if you come to know 20 to 25 plants well, not just their name and bloom time and color, but how their growth rate and your growth habit from youth to maturity, how they relate to each other, you can take those 25 plants and make millions of combinations. There's no end to what you can do. And then if you need something vertical and white, you seek it out. What fits your style and your signature of who you are. But it's just a good way to begin.
I love that concept, though. For me, it changed the whole way of thinking about things because it's very easy to get overwhelmed with. We know there's so many plants out there, and I admit to be a little bit of a plant collector. I sort of,
it's good to try things.
It's fun to try things and try out new things and whatever. But it's. And I think there's still a place for that. But I think it's really interesting to be able to, you just really have a real knowledge that you can better predict what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. It's not all a guessing game.
Well, it's not hope to God gardening.
Exactly.
I hope to God it rains. Hope to God it doesn't reseed. I hope to God. So what you're doing is you're doing things with more confidence.
Right.
And if something doesn't quite fit the way it was expected, you dig it and move it.
Yeah.
But when you put plants together based on how they grow into each other in a healthy way, it's a much better start. And then you can keep adding and advancing and adding anything you want based on wanting to do it, not having to do it.
Right.
If you have to do things in the garden, that's a struggle.
Right.
And that's not gardening. That's called labor.
Right. Right. And we don't want it to be that. I did just want to have you maybe walk through some of these great plant combinations that we're seeing over here in your gardens here at Northwind. A little bit. I'm seeing some wonderful things. We've got a great. Is this what is this geranium that we're seeing?
That's geranium Orion.
Okay.
Geranium Orion is cool. I like it better than Spinners or Johnson's Blue because you see, as it's in bloom, it'll bloom most of the summer. It fills its center.
Yes, and that's the problem with those other ones. Yes, I have Johnson's Blue. I've got Johnson Blue falling everywhere right now. Yeah.
So because it fills its center, it doesn't leave a hole.
Right.
And then it leans into the phlox. That's a phlox called Fashionably Early. It's a new selection from Walters.
Okay.
They have a fashionably early group of phlox.
Okay.
But they bloom most of the summer.
Right.
So it's a very nice plant. And along with Stakey's Umalo, Coreopsis Golden Showers, and that's Nepeta subsessilis Sweet Dreams. It's kind of tinted pink. And the species is in the back.
Okay.
The blue one.
Yep.
And I just kind of drift them through there. Then in between that, I put some pycnanthemum. But I didn't put the pycnanthemum until last year because it has this ability to spread and seed. So I put that white in between the pink and the blue last year. And then the Stakey's they're good clumpers. They're very dense. And then just offset with the geranium leaning into it so you can see a little blue Orion.
Right, mixing in there.
Why I like Orion because it kind of leans into
Yeah.
things. It makes it
Well, it's-
softens the edges.
It's particularly lovely where it's intermingling with the phlox there, and then
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it's literally tying. It's actually literally tying this
Yeah.
little plant combination together here. That's lovely. I love that blue. I think that's a great
And
plant.
there's not much to do here this time of year because the plantings are so dense, but they're dense in a very loving way.
Yes.
They're not impeding each other's growth.
Right.
So there's not a lot of weeding here because we've cut the light down below 1,000-foot candles of light. That open spot there, there'll be weeds in there.
Sure.
I can see an oxalis right now
There we
fighting
go,
its
right.
way through. But in here, there's just not a lot.
Right.
So you really can reduce the weeding competition by densely planting plants.
That's great. And I'm loving seeing there is just so many pollinators and insects over here, especially on that Nepeta. They're really just
Oh, yeah,
loving that
yeah.
Nepeta over there. They're after that big
And I
time.
don't do anything. I'm not an ologist of anything.
Right, right.
I'm a dirt gardener.
Right.
But when we put this garden into the year 2000, when I started, this was our stock
Yeah.
beds. I started the garden, and the second year, 2002, scarlet tanager showed up.
Oh,
I have no idea why. I didn't design it for birds.
right.
But when you do it, all these creatures
Right.
show up for free.
Right.
They just happen to find whatever it is they're after. I was really surprised because I'd never seen a scarlet tanager
Yeah.
in my life.
That's
And
wonderful.
they were in this section of the
What a-
garden
what a treat.
for a brief time.
And I'm looking at the layer in the back here. I see some thalictrum back. Is this
Oh,
a
yeah, yeah.
huge echinopsis that I'm seeing there?
It's Bananticus.
Oh my gosh, that's
Very tall.
a
Yeah.
big one.
Yeah.
That is
And
a
I
big
just
one.
planted Vernonia summer swan song with that.
Right.
So in front of that summer swan song will be half its height.
Okay.
In 2 years.
Okay.
And it'll look pretty cool. It'll be purple, and that'll just be more architectural.
Right. Right. Absolutely. What color does that echinops bloom? Is that a blue
It's
one or?
blue.
Yeah. Okay.
It'll be kind of a steel blue.
Okay, beautiful. That's really interesting. And then just because I'm really into thalictrums, I'm like obsessed with
Oh,
them.
yeah.
Which thalictrum is that? Is that Ellen?
Roche Brunianum.
Oh, okay.
It has the pink cloudy
Okay. Oh
flowers.
yeah, love it.
Yeah, I put that in last fall too. There's some Cacalia triplicifolia next to it. That's
Okay.
got puffy white flowers.
Yeah.
So that a puffy little kind of mingle with the pink when
Nice.
it becomes a cloud. It'll be
Right.
the white flat flowers.
Right. But I mean, I love what we're seeing here because even though, like you said, these plants are very tightly knit together, nothing feels crowded to me. Like somebody, I don't have any sort of overwhelming urge to like think, oh, a bunch of stuff has to get divided or
That's
anything
what
like
people
that.
usually do when you start dividing. I go, for what?
Right. Right.
That's just that's how we grew up.
Right.
If plants touch,
Yes. Yes.
they have to be divided.
Yes. I just love looking over this vista here because especially when we get to those back layers, I just love how, I mean, you've got some achilleas back there.
It's gold plate.
Gold plate. And I love, I just love the form of all these things, and it kind of mimics in the thalictrum the kind of horizontal branching in that thalictrum. It's very interesting to see all the layers sort of come together without an obvious stepping stone situation like you might have in
yeah,
a very
yeah,
formal border or something like that.
Well,
So,
actually, I learned that from Pete Outoff.
yeah,
He had big things like this eupatorium. I would
Yeah.
never have done that in
right in the front.
year 2000.
Yeah.
Boom, he's got
Yeah.
it right at the edge.
Yep. Yeah.
And the other thing Pete taught me was two things, really. One is stretch your patterns out. Don't be choppy. So you take something like you have that spiralis. He said, stretch it out, Roy. Especially with scale. If you're choppy, it looks like a TV jingle.
Right.
If you stretch it out, it's like a orchestral piece. A composition
Right.
is better. And the other thing he told me was, we were talking at Starbucks. He goes, well, Roy, what makes something beautiful? And I go, I don't know what is. He goes, everybody has what their belief is. He said, if I have this cup of coffee, this is tea, but if I have a cup of coffee and I start thinking it's the best coffee I've ever had, is it because it's the best coffee? Or is it because of where I'm at and who I'm with, the coffee tastes so good? So we have to keep thinking in a clear way what
Right.
makes beauty in our lives.
Right.
And I thought, God, that's cool.
Yeah. That's great.
And I like sharing that with people because sometimes we get stuck on beauty.
Right.
And we don't know how to bring something else into our lives.
Right. That's a wonderful way to look at it. Let me ask you one more question, which is that I think that this style of planting, a lot of times people think this only works in very, very large spaces. And this is not a particularly large space that we're in right now, but I think people start thinking, oh, well, we've seen this in Pete's designs, or we've seen this in the Lurie garden, and these are enormous things. So what are some takeaways for a home gardener with a smaller space to be able to create a look like this?
Well, I have a friend of mine, Chris Abrams in Chicago. He does this style of gardening in about 20 feet. But what he does, he still spends time on it because he details it through pruning. So I might spend 2 hours here on a Saturday.
Yeah.
He might spend 2 hours on 30 feet.
Sure.
So time-wise, it's the same time. But he would prune out some of the centers. He would prune this shorter and maybe allow one stem.
Yeah.
So basically, it's the knowledge you have, the time you want to spend. So you can take big things and put them in the tiniest little spaces.
Yeah.
Like if I clipped that
Right.
Eupatorium,
Right.
and I took one off, I could run a plant right through the center of it.
Right.
So there's no reason you can't do something. It's just having the degree of knowledge how to approach it.
Sure.
And his gardens in Chicago, he told me he's putting Joe Pye wheat. I don't know how, because I let everything kind of be who they are.
Right.
And he details it, but it doesn't cost more than if people
Sure.
had a big garden.
Sure.
And he's very skilled at this. So everything is doable. It's just you have to understand how you approach it
Right.
based on what your goals
Right.
and objectives are.
And it all starts with that knowledge of the plants.
Right.
And really, I mean, of course, we can gain that knowledge from things like your book. Of course, is a great resource, and there are many other resources. But would you agree that there's really no better way to do that than to grow the plants?
How do you get friends? If you want friends in life, you gotta go meet people.
Right.
I don't know how any other way to
Right.
learn about you. You can learn a little bit more about them by reading and
Right.
talking to people and visiting gardens.
Right.
I think, you just need to put the plant in the ground.
Yeah. Great advice. Wow.
Have fun.
Wonderful. All right. Well, listen, Roy, it was such a pleasure to be here with
It's
you.
too good you're here. Thanks for coming out.
Absolutely.
This is super.
So make sure you check out Roy's channel. I will put a link to that for you to see that. We're going to be talking some on his channel too, so make sure you check that out. By all means, do check out Roy's book because it's a great manual. It is one of the gardening books that is always out and at hand in my house.
You're too nice.
So I should have brought it to have you autograph it for me.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you so much, you guys. I hope you found this enjoyable. And I hope you learned a little something because Roy's a good guy to learn it from. All right, have a great day in your garden.